All right. Okay, so we're here today to talk about what's new in PPM360. The agenda for today is we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about Marquee 360, and then we're going to talk about PPM360 and what's new. And I'm Erin Boyle. I'm the marketing manager at Marquee 360, and I also have Allison on the call with me. Allison, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Nice to see some familiar names and some new names. So welcome.
Awesome. So a little bit about Marquee 360. Like Allison said, I know some of you are already familiar, so thank you for being here. For anyone who's new, we are Microsoft Gold Partner for Project and Portfolio Management and Cloud Productivity, and we have been named Partner of the Year Project and Portfolio Management finalist since 2022, which is an amazing honor. Just shows that we are working with Microsoft step by step, following their roadmap and making sure our customers are getting the latest and most innovative technology when it comes to project and portfolio management. So a little bit about Marquee 360. The company was started by two veterans in this space. So one was a Microsoft project seller, and another one has been working with project in the Microsoft space for almost his whole career. So a lot of veterans on our team who've seen a lot of iterations of Microsoft Project, from Project Server all the way now to the newest planner. And our three pillars are innovation, customer success, and support. So innovation, we're constantly working with, like I said, Microsoft technology, especially the Microsoft 365 platform and products that you're probably already familiar with, but maybe not getting the most out of, or maybe you just need a little bit more capabilities out of them, and that's where we can help. So we extend those technologies, and then we also can connect them as well to give you so you're not jumping from one app to another. We can connect them so you're getting all of your work done in one place. And you'll kind of see that once Allison shows PPM 360. We pride ourselves on customer success. So when we do an implementation, we start with requirements gathering and work really closely with your team to make sure that you're getting everything that works for your business. And we're not just implementing something and running away. We work with you post-implementation with support and training. And a lot of our customers do stay on for post-support. We have a 24/7 support team in-house. So if you have any needs after our implementation, we're there to help. And a little bit about our PPM 360. This is our planner accelerator. And like I said, we work with the Microsoft 365 platform. So we put everything together in one place. So you'll see Teams, you'll see that if you're familiar with Power Apps, you'll see that platform, Planner, Power BI, as Allison's kind of going through her demo today. And then, so this is exactly what each of those products kind of do in this diagram. And then we'll see it all brought together in one place so you can get all of these capabilities without having to actually be just in Planner or just in Teams. You'll see how that all comes together. All right.
All right, Erin. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Like I said, it's nice to see some familiar names. It's also nice to see some new names. So I am going, for those that are already using PPM 360, I am going to provide a little bit of an orientation just for those that are not familiar with our solution. I'm also going to go off camera because otherwise you'll just be seeing the side of my face, and I want you to kind of focus on the screen. Feel free to interrupt me at any point. Again, what I really want to get to is the three latest enhancements to our solution. One which is Interproject Dependencies. The other is a new what we're referring to as a unified resource planner control, and then baselines. Now that's been around for a little while, so once I go over that, those of you that maybe have not been reading the newsletters that Erin sends out or may have joined us just as some of these enhancements, I'll also recap some things that have happened probably in about the past 9 months. So first, a orientation. So for those of you who are not familiar with PPM360, it is what we call a model-driven Power App. So it is based on Microsoft's Power Platform. All of the data behind the scenes is stored in the Dataverse. We typically install this in an environment that is dedicated to the solution. We refer to that as a named environment. But as Erin mentioned, it's not just this one solution. We have several apps, and then it also integrates with several of the Microsoft tools. One of those apps is an intake app. So we usually will provide access to that from within PPM360 itself. Some of our customers elect to actually just start with the intake app because this happens to be what we refer to as a Canvas app. And behind the scenes, it's a SharePoint list. That's kind of a benefit of these solutions. Usually, you require very minimal additional licensing to use these tools. So for example, the intake app, it's using SharePoint, nothing further is required. The intake app is great for providing a centralized means for individuals in the organization to make project requests or submit ideas. I'll just open one real quick so you can see. Out of the box, we usually we have a couple of tabs pre-configured, but again, with all of our solutions, because this is based on the Power Platform, anything can be customized. So this form captures some key information to help maybe the PMO office determine whether or not they want to move forward with this idea, how they would like to prioritize it. These requests can either immediately translate into a project or they can go through a approval process. That can be very simple as just a go or no go, or it can go through a very sophisticated approval process. So just showing you some of the tabs, right? So there was the original, some information, maybe some details about dates and budgets, a means to, help the PMO office or other approving group prioritize, and then a way to forward any attachments that might help with the decision-making process. Once those are submitted, you'll notice from this portal, we can kind of determine where things are. And then once something is approved, so I'm just going to go find something I had submitted a while ago. You'll notice that they get a link, and that just quickly connects us back to the project that is now in PPM360. Often a lot of information that was in that request comes over into the project. Probably the most popular feature is that, we will select, well, what type of project is this? Is this a technical project? Is this a marketing project? And based on that, we can have a particular governance model be made available to the project manager, allowing them to indicate what state the project is in. That can also include approvals. And then also, depending on the type, we can have it default to a particular project schedule. So I'm going to actually jump into a more recent project. Hold on. I've got too many windows. There we go. Sorry about that. So I'm back into PPM360. I've moved from, the home dashboard to plans. And you'll notice that throughout PPM360, you're going to have different ways of seeing the list of plans. In this case, this list can be customized. Normally, the default is this My Active Plans, and it is ordered by the project ID. I decided I wanted to see some things based on start date. And now I'll jump into a plan. Now, what I'm showing you here is what we call PPM360 Lite. Often companies will start and they don't necessarily, maybe they're new when it comes to, governed project management. Maybe they want to keep it simple. So this particular deployment, you would have that ability to, move your project through different gates. You would have the ability to, summarize your project details, and then you would have the ability to manage tasks, risks, issues, and status. What I want to call out here is that this tasks tab, this is actually Microsoft Planner. We are looking at the project affiliated Microsoft Premium plan. And you'll notice that we have up here an open in planner button because these plans are accessible through the native planner app. I know some customers like to use this because it just gives them, much more real estate on the screen. In addition to being integrated with Planner, another integration that our solution supports is with Microsoft Teams. So a lot of customers will have this be set to default to yes. Some will leave it up to the project managers, but when this value is set to yes, PPM 360 will automatically configure a Microsoft team so that the project team can collaborate in a single workspace. Now, I see, Patrick, you have a hand up. Can I answer a question?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
derail
no.
the progress here. Just super quick question on the planner grid view, the filtering. Is it possible to set those like by default just to filter out the completed line items?
You can, by default, I don't know. Usually if I were to come in here and filter this out to say I'm not interested, I'm only interested in things that are in progress and not started, that should be sticky, meaning that if you leave this and come back, those filters should remain in place.
No, unfortunately not yet. It could be for offline. I'm just curious if that's
Okay.
possible because some of our plans get really lengthy. And that's the first thing we do. We go in there and we filter out what's already done just to see what we're actually supposed to do
Okay.
next. So that's fine.
All right. So we're talking about integration, and I was just about to jump into the open in Teams. So what's nice about this is that not all of your project team members are necessarily going to want to come into that PPM 360 app. They don't need to know all the details. They don't need to see all those other options. What they are really interested in is the project schedule. So when we have a Microsoft team, what we can do is we can, as a team, we can have conversations, we can share our files, we can quickly launch the project in PPM 360. But probably most importantly is we can see that same schedule here and make our updates and have conversations. It's also possible to, configure this so if you have other tools that you want to include as tabs or a specific folder structure, that can be included as well. Okay, so that is what I was referring to as PPM 360 Lite. But then we have we'll call it Pro, but I'm just going to call it PPM 360 from here on out. And with that implementation, you see that we get, oops, sorry that I keep doing that. You can see that we get many more project management tool sets. We have a means to capture project status. We have a means to manage resources. We're going to talk about the Interproject Dependency. We're going to talk about task baseline. So you can see, the capability here expands. Also with PPM 360, you then have the ability to organize your projects into portfolios. right? So we can create a portfolio. We can, from time to time, indicate, its general health. When we associate projects, when those projects have financials, those values will roll up so I can quickly see that summary from here. Here are our projects. We also have the ability to organize our projects into programs. It's kind of similar, right? We still have the ability to add a description. We still have the ability to indicate overall health. You can see there's a bit more analytics happening here as far as counts. We have that financial roll-up again, but we can also specify, some program financials. Here is where we would then have, the collection of projects. And then this is actually a newer enhancement I was going to talk about at the end, but since I'm right here, we also have this timeline view. So of the projects in my program, I can see them all on a timeline, and I can look at that, at different timescales and quickly see how things are progressing. And then with PPM360, we also get resource management, but we're going to talk about that in depth later. So with that, I am now going to return to my slideshow. And let's talk about this new capability, Interproject Dependencies. It's something we received a lot of requests for. So some of the highlights, what this allows us to do is link upstream and downstream projects and specific tasks. It offers bi-directional visibility, meaning that from the downstream project, I can see what's going on upstream and vice versa. When we create the dependencies, we have a choice of either a soft link. So what that's going to do is you'll see that it's going to add the task to my task schedule as a fixed point of reference, meaning that if the downstream task changes dates, that's not going to change in my task schedule. That's going to be a conscious decision I make if I want to actually update that and have it impact my timeline. The hard links, these are the ones that are dynamic. So the task is added to my schedule, and if dates either upstream or downstream change, that's going to be reflected in the task schedule. And then what we can do is we can use native planner capability, native premium plan capability, and start using task level dependencies. And then that will really keep my schedules aligned. So let me demonstrate that. So I'm going to go into my plan, and I've got two. I'm going to go into, we're going to be doing project A and project B. The project A is my upstream project. Project B is my downstream. So here, I've already created a few. So what you're seeing here is the upstream project name, the task that is considered the upstream task, then my downstream project, the downstream task, and the type of link. Now, in this case, this is that soft link. Again, this is where I just want, I just want to capture that this is going on somewhere else and I want to be aware of it. I don't care or want to immediately consider date changes. Now, what I'm seeing here is indeed the current start and finish date of this task. But let's go look at my task schedule. So just keep in mind, someone with good short-term memory, August 6th. And we were looking at contract 1, deliverable B. So in my task schedule, when I set up a project interdependency, I guess it's going to take a snooze here for a minute. Well, that's thinking. Luckily, I have this open in Planner, so we'll just continue the conversation here. So this is that soft link. And notice the date is July 30th and 31st. That's because when I originally set up this dependency, that was the date. Since then, there have been some changes. but it's not impacting my timeline. So that's what a soft link does. It adds the task to the schedule, captures the date when I defined it, and there will be no further changes. Okay. Now the other kind is the hard link. And again, that's going to be dynamic. So let's go take a look at this one. So we are looking for contract 2, deliverable D. And I've hoped you noticed. So and I color coded this just to help us keep tabs. So when there's those inter-project dependencies, the ones that are the link obviously have the icon, it has the name of the project, and then it has the task. And someone, again, with good short-term memory, see that this is October 12th. And what I did do in this case was I set a dependency within the schedule. That was my decision. So if this date should change, I do want it to impact my schedule. So I'm going to go jump to this project B. I could either do that because I have it pinned, or I could navigate from my Interproject Dependency tab, assuming I have permission to that project. I'll just do this. So I'm going to go into the task schedule. And know what I'm going to see here is I'm going to see links to the upstream project. So again, it happens in both places. If I go to the inter-project dependencies here in this downstream project, I'm going to see those same relationships. Now, here's that deliverable D that has that October 12th date. I'm going to go ahead and push that out like a month. Now, this is all being driven by workflows, but these respond pretty quickly. So now if I go into my task schedule, I can see that the deliverable moved out. And that should have, oh, you know what? I'm still downstream. Sorry, let me get back upstream. So I'm now upstream. As I mentioned, that date changed. We pushed it out to November. And because I had a dependency set at the task level, that did indeed impact my close contract task. And I will just demonstrate for you how these are set up. So you always have to set this up from the upstream project. You will go into Interproject Dependencies. You will elect New Interproject Dependency. It's going to say, okay, your upstream project is the project you are in. You can then pick your task. So I'm going to say, okay, this is associated with me closing contract 3. It's then going to ask me to pick my downstream project. I will pick project B. It's then going to ask me to pick my downstream task. Hello. Starting to wonder if someone else is at home here using my internet. While I'm waiting for that to come up, did I see a hand go up? Did someone have a question?
Yes, I had a question, Chantel.
Hi, Chantel.
For the soft links,
Mhm.
if I want to, like the new date that they may have had for their task, if I want to use that new date, do I have to manually go into my schedule and update to that date, or is there a way
Yes.
to accept it? Or okay, so it's
Yeah.
just manual.
So out of the box, it would be, yes, you would need to just update your instance of the schedule. What I always caution, but it's also a good thing, is these solutions are highly customizable. So that actually sounds like an interesting idea to me. So if that was something that we wanted to investigate and see if it was technically feasible, we could certainly explore that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I'll try this one more time. So close contract 3. There we go. And so I'm going to do this contract 3 deliverable A. I'm going to accept the default of hard. I'm going to say save and close. And so shortly, assuming my internet remains speedy, I should see that deliverable here. Right now, there is no date defined on that. The other thing that this does sync, in addition to the start and the finish, it does sync the effort. So, if I were to jump into this and set start date, finish date, and effort, that would become visible here. And then if I wanted to, I could go ahead and set my dependencies. That's just native functionality, right? So I could say depends on, and I could find, what is it? I'm going to go ahead and say 9, and there we go. And then I would clean things up. Any other questions about this feature?
I've got one.
Sure.
So from two different perspectives, I'm thinking from like the project manager's perspective and the person that's assigned the task. If there is a linkage between the tasks in my project, for example, a task in my project and a task, let's say, let's just use you, for example, in your project, and we are both managing our projects independently, but there's that link, right? If my task is dependent on the task in your project and you change the date on that task in your project, how will either I as the project manager or the owner of the task be notified that that our dates have just moved out?
Right. So there is no built-in notification natively, but again, this is all being managed with Power Automate workflows, which we can do quite a bit with them. So if we wanted to develop a customization that says, hey, if a task is modified and it is found in the inner project dependency grid, send a notification. I'm sure that that is something that we could determine a way. But otherwise, yes, there is no, hey. Although, Patrick, as I'm saying that out loud, if you were assigned the task, we do have, again, this is native planner, and we do have some notifications that are generated, by default. And I want to say that if a date changes on a task you're assigned, I think you might get a notification. I would have to go back and look at what those native planner notifications are. But that might be like kind of your good, better, best. I think your good is planner might give you some notification. Best would be us crafting some, more targeted, making sure the project manager is made aware.
Yeah, I know there's like some limits with us being a government entity, and I guess our particular kind of licensing or something. So auditing is not possible at the moment for us, just as far as the project manager being able to go and see all the changes.
Right, you can't go into the task history and find out. Yeah, you're missing that.
I'm definitely getting updates when I'm coming due or late for tasks, but I don't recall seeing any when they're changed.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's. Then again, I rarely assign myself tasks. Usually, I'm assigning them.
Right, Aaron, do you mind just making a note on a piece of paper or shoot me an email, and I'll quickly look into what those native planner notifications should be.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate the conversation, Patrick. Does anyone else have any other questions about this feature before I talk about our new resource planner control? Okay. So for those of you that are already using PPM360, or even it's still considered our out-of-the-box capability, is our native out-of-the-box functionality is that typically engagement. Now, this is not assigned the task. So let's talk about engagement, right? So it's when we're planning a project and we're starting to build our project team, it's good for us to try and anticipate, how much of Erin's time am I going to anticipate she's going to be committing to my project each month? Am I going to, is my project going to demand 75% of her time, 100% of her time, 75% of her time? That just helps with overall planning and resource management. So you heard me mention, monthly percentages. then the resource managers, they have to manage availability separately from engagement, and to then see, is anyone, over allocated? Does anyone have bandwidth to take on more work? I then have to go to a third place. As the project manager, when I'm adding people to my team, I don't have any insight into what they're doing. So I'm like, oh, I need them 100%, 100%, 100%. And that could be totally unrealistic. With our new control, we found that customers were often thinking more so in the context of hours, right? 40 hours a week. And that was the popular, like, oh, we plan week to week. Or yeah, maybe we do plan month to month, 160 hours. And so what you'll see this control does is it provides a single workspace for the resource manager to set and manage both the resources availability and the engagement that has been planned by the various project managers. The project managers, they're still going to, manage it, within their individual projects. But what's nice is they can see what else the resources may be committed to. And so, like, if there's a need, hey, do you think so-and-so might be able to do that work a little later because, my project really demands their expertise this month, and I see, they might be dedicated to you. It just helps have those conversations. And the control is configurable. So let's take a look. Let's see, how are we doing on time? All right, I'm going to actually show you how it was real quick. So how it was is you have your roster of bookable resources. And this part really hasn't changed. So you have your roster of bookable resources. And then for each of those resources, you set some system defaults. One is their default capacity. This value is used to set monthly values that are then used for reporting. So, when I was first added to the system, my resource capacity was 50%. I was never expected to be engaged more than 50% per month on projects. Once I was saved, I had 10 years worth of availability populated in the system that was being used by reporting. The other system setting is this, default utilization. Whenever I am added to a project as a project team member, it's going to set my monthly engagement on that project as 25%. Now, the project manager could change that, saying, oh no, I'm anticipating Allison's going to have to commit 75% of her time, these 2 months or what have you. Again, these are system standards. As I mentioned, when I was first added to the system, it populated 10 years of availability. Right. And so you can see this is all when I mentioned I was 50%, but the resource manager could come in here and update this. Oh, actually, wrong year. This Allison's going to be, she should be, committed 100% all these months to project work. Once I do that, if I'm curious, well, I wonder what Allison's even doing these days, I have to go to a different area, go into engagements, and I would need to look up Allison. And I could see all the projects, and I could see, what is being planned for her. Well, what does that mean? Does she have enough work? Does she have too much work? To answer that question, I have to launch our report pack. Both the PPM360 Lite and Pro include a report pack. This is the complete list. The Lite has a subset of this, but here I'm in the resource availability report, and this way I could come in and look and see, anything that's white, they can take on more work. Anything that's red, 0, negative, they are over allocated. paler colors, they can take on a little more, but they're getting close to capacity. So I had to click in 3 different places to figure out what's going on. So let's go to the new solution. All right, I'm putting my resource manager hat on. I'm coming into engagements. That would be the only tab under our resource management hub. I'll highlight a few things about the controls. So you're not going to see it here. You'll see it when we get into the plan. So the control can be configured with filters, because right now, in order to find, for example, Stella, I have to scroll down to find Stella. So the filters, we can do a quick lookup by name. We could shorten the list, show me all developers. So we could do it by employee type, employee title, and so forth. So we can make filters available. We can also configure what is the default timescale when I first enter this page. Right now it's set to month, but I will switch over here to week, and you see we can then navigate. And then I can start changing availability. So this catches my attention. What is going on with Stella? Well, I can see the problem is, so she's expected to commit 10 hours of, be engaged 10 hours on this, on some projects. Her capacity is set to 0. Looks like this never got populated. So all I need to do is click in here and start typing. And what we should see happen is, as I'm making these changes, I'll just do a few weeks, and I move around, the heat map is dynamic. And so far, nothing's been committed. If I really want to make those changes, I will go ahead and hit save. So for example, I can also see what is Stella currently working on. So, okay, she's working on 2 projects. If I had set this availability, let's say for some strange reason, I know she's only going to be available 5 hours that week, and I'll move out of there, then we can see, right, it goes to red. The ranges, we monitor 3 ranges. What those ranges are configurable. And then also the color coding is configurable. So the resource manager can come in here and edit availability. The other thing they can edit, but normally this isn't the way it works, is if they wanted to alter the project engagement, we usually do grant the resource manager that level of control. Some will say, no, we just want them to manage availability, be able to see engagement, and then go work with the individual project managers. Any question about the resource manager's view of this control? Okay, so the other place this control is found is in the individual projects. So resources, this resource tab is where I build my project team. Simply say new. I would go ahead and pick a resource. I'll pick on Erin. I would say, what is her role going to be? I would pick her role. When is she going to be, joining me on this project? I forget what the dates are on this project. So, but I'll say, okay, starting next week and, through the month of September. And as we build the team, those people would then get added to the control. We should also be seeing it automatically populate availability and whatnot. So here, I mentioned filters. So here you'll see we could filter in this case by title, type, person, organization, resource manager. Usually employee name is in here. So if this list starts to get long and hard to manage, we can do that. And then now what's nice for the project manager is, let me switch to that week view, is I can say, oh my goodness, Stella looks to be, and even Mike, what is going on? Well, with Mike, I can see that his capacity just was never set. right? I'm hovering over and seeing his capacity set to 0. So I'm going to go talk to the resource manager and say, hey, you need to go update the system. In Stella's case, same thing here. But if these were set and I'm curious, well, what else is Stella working on? I didn't have this insight before, but now I can see, oh, she's working on this project. You know what? I really don't need this level of commitment from her at that time. So maybe I'll back this down and just plan on having her the following week. So those are the type of conversations this control helps have. Any questions? And the project manager, I cannot edit the other projects, but I can edit my own. And again, I can jump all over the place, make changes, see what that's going to do. And then when I'm done, go ahead and commit. Okay. So the other more recent enhancement that was on our agenda that I need to make sure we discuss is advanced baselines. So if anyone, I think some people that joined us, they're using Excel. Some others are using just Planner out of the box. So if you are creating premium plans in Planner, you do have access to a baseline. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. It lets you capture the state of the plan at a specific moment. And if you click the Compare Tasks button, what it will do is add to the grid view the baseline start, baseline finish, and finish variance. The problem is you can only ever have one baseline. So in PPM360, we have what we're referring to as advanced baselines. Same thing, allows you to capture the state of the plan at a specific moment. And then in our grid view, you have, yes, start, finish, but then you also have baseline duration and baseline effort. And the big benefit is that up to 15 baselines can be stored. So let's go take a look at that. I'm going to jump into project B. So remember, tasks is Microsoft native premium plan. If you are just working directly in Planner, it'll look like this. And what you have is this baseline button. So we can click on baseline, say create a baseline, and then moving forward, it'll give you some statistics here as time goes on. And then if we hit compare all tasks, watch the grid view, we now have that baseline start, the baseline finish, and the finish variance. Now, flash forward 2 weeks. There have been vacations, maybe we had trouble securing funding, times have changed, and we all recognize, okay, this is why the change has been made, and we're gonna, just then monitor things moving forward. If I want to capture a baseline in Planner, I have to get rid of this one first because I can only ever have one baseline. So I kind of do lose sight of what was the original plan. In PPM360, we have a tab called Task Baselines. And as I mentioned, it will allow you to save up to 15 baselines. And our grid view of the baseline includes the baseline start and finish. And we can compare that to the current start and finish. And then we also have the baseline duration and effort, which we can compare to the actual baseline and effort that's being fed by the project schedule. To create a baseline, we go to the top of our screen and we say, yes, we'd like to create a new baseline. It's going to show us when the last one was captured. And then we simply hit save. And a workflow is running behind the scenes. And once I see this jump to 2, we'll be able to come back in here and then navigate to that one. So pretty straightforward. Any questions? Let's see if I just can't. There we go. So now we have baseline 1 and we have baseline 2.
Allison, Johnny does have a question in the chat. I know,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not sure if you have a
my
poll.
window's really thin. Hold on. Thank you.
No problem.
And PPM360 interact with Microsoft Project Professional. So I assume by that you are asking about the project desktop tool. So natively, no, but we do have a tool. What are we even calling? I think we call it Planner Sync 360. And what that does is it is an add-in to your instance of Project Professional. And you can then either take a MPP file that you already have and generate a project, or vice versa. You can create your project in PPM360 and then connect your Project Professional tool to that, and it'll generate an MPP file, and then you can keep details synchronized between the two. I think we did a demo of that fairly recently, so Johnny, either Aaron or myself or Charlene will follow up with you. We probably can provide you with a link to the video if you'd like to see how that works.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you very much. Yeah, please provide me the link in the past video. I appreciate it.
Sure. And I see Patrick has a question as well. Project, high value technical member. If that member takes 2 weeks PTO, how do I account for that in my project? So I think probably we could take that conversation offline. You know, we do have one thing we didn't review when I was going over the resource management. We do have in here work hours. This is used by that planner scheduling engine to determine if I put a person on a task, how much effort does that equate to? And also, what is the duration going to be? So if you assign me a task, Patrick, but my work hours are set, like I have some non-working days, it's going to extend how long it's going to take me to complete that task. However, you know, if you start going down the rabbit holes on the internet and Microsoft Learn sites, they'll say that this is not meant to be a time management system. So let me process your question a little bit more offline and suggest some answers. I guess that kind of does open up one thing that we also offer, although I'm not sure it would help account for the planning of PTO, but PPM through Marquee does have a timesheet solution. And that timesheet, it's another one of those model-driven apps, meaning it is based behind the scenes at SharePoint. But what we do is we synchronize task schedule assignments to SharePoint so that people can then report their time against like in the context of a timesheet, and it also supports administrative time. So let me just get through this little laundry list of the other recent enhancements for those that are not familiar with them, and then I can at least pull up the timesheet interface if anyone's curious what that looks like. So other things that have been added to PPM360 in the past probably 9 months, maybe it's already been a year. So if you are an existing customer, you should have seen we've hosted a couple of events and we've shared them in our various support newsletters that we offer. But I already called out, I think, in-app notifications. So even though you are getting notifications potentially in Teams, Planner, and Outlook, depending on how you have your personal notification settings configured. When I come into PPM360, I might have notifications here as well. If anything is, pending my review, approval, I might also have notifications here about upcoming tasks. So that is something new. What I'll do is I'm just going to pull this over here so that I can hold on, see the list and talk through them real quick. All right. The timeline view of project collections, you already saw that when I had launched programs, but we also have it in this list of views, to see any project that I'm a team member of. I can switch to the all plans timeline view and see what's going on there. We did not talk about Planner Sync. So one unfortunate thing is that Planner out of the box will not surface task assignments that are in a named environment. So hopefully you caught me saying that when we deploy PPM360, we put that in a dedicated space, a named environment. And by default, Microsoft will not surface those tasks. They'll surface the plan, but I can't see the tasks in my tasks or my day. And that's a benefit of Planner, right? As someone that's given project work, it's nice to be able to come into my tasks and see, right, my entire workload, across my different plans. So when we activate Planner Sync, what that does is it creates pretty much a flattened or truncated view of the PPM360 project schedule. And it does that as what we call a basic plan. And then because it's a basic plan in my default environment, I will quickly see those tasks. And I've just got so much data in here, we're not going to find it quickly, but I would quickly see those tasks in my tasks. And what is nice is here's a synced instance, but everything's refreshing right now. I could quickly open that and say it's in progress, and that would sync back to the PPM360 schedule and project manager, so they are aware that I'm working on it. Any more detailed update that I want to provide, I would actually launch the PPM360 schedule, most likely from my Microsoft team, and update more specifics there. The open in Teams, that is a newer feature that I already demonstrated as part of our time together. Another feature, so project managers are typically asked to provide status updates on some sort of regular basis. So 2 enhancements are that, one, we can elect to have basically a summary of the status update emailed to someone so that they are not burdened with coming into, I got to go into the project, I got to go to the status, I got to find the status report, how are things going? They'll get an email that has the status health indicators and the narratives. As a project manager, I might not like doing this on a weekly basis, especially if things are not changing. Maybe because, it's summer, we knew that people were going to be offline. We were anticipating a lull. So what I can do is I can open a previous status report and say that I would like to copy that. Again, a Power Automate flow runs behind the scenes, wouldn't say it takes a minute, it takes a few seconds. I then have my copy, which I could then click in. I can rename, and I could change whatever needs to be changed and hit save and close. So that, streamlines that administrative task. Both the light and full PPM360 tool now include board views of both risks and issues. And also, unfortunately, right, sometimes risks do become issues. So rather than having to key that in a second time, we can set convert risk to issue yes, and it will then make a copy of the risk as an issue. So that, again, kind of streamlining that the management of that information. Other things that are possible include, for those that do take advantage of financials, when we're curious about, well, what is this calculation? We now surface the calculations on hover over. We also, in your task schedules, we can include custom fields. In the past, though, we weren't able to report on those custom fields, but now we can. So if you have other pieces of metadata that you need to track for your tasks and you want to report on them, we can make them more of a system customization that is then reportable. And then often when we're talking about tasks and effort and planning, we get asked, couldn't we just have the effort sync to, this view? And that is something we have done for a few customers. Usually it's when you're planning projects, right, you don't have that schedule broken out to that level of detail, which is why it's good to have, engagement planning separate from actual work assignment. But when we have customers with those needs, we can do that.